is commonly discussed out there in our Labour movement. I can say, as chair of the Backbench Energy and Climate Change Committee, I've had nothing but good relations with the front bench team. And because I was very keen when Lisa became the first Shadow Secretary of State, that actually we recognise that when we're developing policy, you don't develop policy to then just fall off a cliff. Actually, it's a continuum of what we have to do and develop as new ideas emerge, but actually some of the old ideas are still good ideas. And when it comes to the environment and climate change, you know, some of the arguments we are still having to make and some of the progress based on some of those old ideas of policy are still out there. And I have to say, in the course of the last year, in fact, 100 days into the Conservative government, a number of people are asked to write a little piece about the first 100 days. So I wrote one in relation to energy and climate change. The title was Winter is Coming. I happen to be a Game of Thrones fan, but you know, there we go. And what we saw was really, again, I'm afraid, a continuation of what we saw under the coalition government, which was very short-term thinking, a lot of big talk, but little delivery on the ground. And that has, I think, beset the policy area for the whole of the last year. I also have to say that in my final part for that piece, I did predict that the Department of Energy and Climate Change would be gone by the end of the Parliament, and obviously it's happened a bit sooner than expected. Can I also say it's been great to continue my working relationship with Alan, because when I was the Shadow Minister, Alan was the chair of the Backbench Committee on Energy and Climate Change. So it's been good to continue that work, and just to show that we have actually produced something out of these discussions, I am promoting, and Alan will as well when you hear from him, our Green Gas book, because we wanted to take another look, and where's Paul? Paul as well has been very supportive of this as well, and the Energy Networks Association has sponsored it. We know that gas is still very important in terms of how we heat our homes and cook our food. Some 80% of us rely on that. We have the plumbing, we have the wires. So actually, if we could use more green gas, actually we could use that infrastructure for a long time to come. And this book is brimming with ideas about what we could do, not just nationally, but locally as well, to use this technology to produce green gas. And there's a stack there. Alan and I will sign them. I was looking at this actually earlier. Lisa and I get things that don't leave anybody behind. We don't want environmental policies to be the preserve of the rich. And that's why it's so important that we win the next general election. Because we all know as Labour Party members that unless we can win elections and bring people with us, all the things we will discuss over the next 5 years, we won't be able to put into practice without that Labour government. So I hope part of coming out of this conference is recognising that goal and never losing sight of it. But also, as we all know, those of us who knock on the doors, not everybody is as convinced as us, not everybody is committed with us. That's not because they're horrible, that's not because they don't care about the environment, but they need to go on a journey, and you are the very people to make that happen. Thank you.
I think the first thing I'd say as Mayor of Bristol is that we're open. I'm open. We know we have a massive challenge to make. We set out in our manifesto that we want to be carbon neutral by 2050. And some of the targets we have to meet, we know that even that could be too late. So we are looking for that expertise to come and help us develop a city plan. And when I mean city, I do mean city, not just local government plan. Some of the things that we're looking at in line with what we just heard was around transport. We've had a conversation with our bus provider about making sure that all of our fuels are run on waste, if I'm allowed to say that, but getting off of diesel. We've had conversations with our taxi fleets as well, who are struggling, and what was interesting to me was how much they wanted to contribute to the Bristol narrative, having been seen as somewhat kind of public transport inconvenience, but we floated the idea of our whole public transport system in Bristol being run on clean fuel, not polluting our air. We're looking at clean air zones as well, and keeping up with the insulation of our homes. We've set up a Bristol Energy company. All those organisations employed 50,000 people. So my challenge to them was, if we in this room on this morning decided we wanted to have an impact on Bristol, we could deliver that, because we have an incredible footprint in Bristol. And how we develop our economy in a sustainable way is one of those challenges that will be taken to that group when we meet again Thursday. How can we rally the city to deliver a city plan that is not just about the electoral term of 2020, but goes forward 30, 40 years, that takes us to that position where we're developing in a way that is not destroying the planet from beneath us. And again, for open doors, for those of you that have participated in the development of city plans, this is something that we as a city in Bristol are just about to do.
That for me, climate change and the environment, I think, I think there are 5 huge challenges facing the centre-left across the world. We've got the largest refugee crisis since World War II, and we've got that, we've got all sorts of issues that are coming out of that. We've got the disruptive digitization of our lives. We all now, with our smartphones, are carrying, you're all publishing to the internet. At Mary Cray MP, by the way, is my Twitter handle. So we've got more computer power in our pocket than Apollo 13 had when it was putting men, and it was men, on the moon. We've got the ageing society. How do we deal with that? And we've got climate change, and these are the challenges for the centre-left. These are our equitably share a declining water resource. We send our diesel technologists over to China to help them deal with their terrible pollution problem. And I think few areas of public policy will be as affected, apart from the economy, by the referendum result. So this is something that we need to be absolutely on the front foot about. And as chair of Parliament's Environmental Audit Committee, this is something that we are looking at. We're looking at the moment at the future of the agriculture and environment schemes, the payments, the £3 billion a year payments that we make to farmers to look after our landscapes and our wild and special places. But we're also going to be looking at air quality, water quality, and at the future of waste, because if we want to live within our global resources, we're going to have to change the way that we consume, and our recycling rate needs to go up a lot higher, from 44.5%, although it was effectively at 0 when we took office in 1997. We need to be getting to a kind of 90 to 95% environment recycling rate, and there's no real strategy or vision about how to do that, to live in a resource-efficient world. We've got to stop calling it waste, making it sound like it's something dirty, and start making it about materials and resource efficiency. We know that flooding is the greatest threat posed by climate change to our country. We know that the east coast of England is uniquely under threat from a storm surge. We know that places like Cumbria, parts of the southwest, parts of my own county of Yorkshire, Wakefield and Leeds, are massively under threat from flooding. And again, we've seen a roller coaster in funding, flood cuts. We cut when it's dry, we put money in when it's raining. That is no longer a sustainable response to this. On microbeads, a piece of good news. We did our report onto microbeads. We launched it over the summer, just as the bank holiday weekend was approaching. These tiny plastic particles that are not just in exfoliants but also in shaving gels are going down, being flushed out. The cosmetics companies are relying on your ignorance, particularly you men. It's in shaving gels. And they are keeping us in the dark and hoping we still keep buying this nonsense. So we've got the government to commit to a ban by the end of 2017. This is all really important. It shows that we can make a difference from a position, and we need to keep working together, coming up with the environmental solutions. It is clear that this is a government that is going to have a lot on its plate after the referendum result. We need to be working together as progressives to shape the future of this country's environmental policies.